Welcome to episode 2 of Hear Me Out. I'm Gabe,
I'm B-Core.
and today we're going to be talking about Captain Marvel. To give you a quick breakdown for people that haven't seen the movie yet, what basically the movie is about a person who's stuck in between a war of two different people, the Kree and the Skrulls, which it doesn't matter who they are, but in the movie she's basically the centerpiece in between two sides that if she picks one side or the other, she could really just give the advantage. And also, she's basically a person trying to find herself in the movie and developing. But after this point, there's going to be spoilers, so that's pretty much all I can tell you.
Okay, well then, I guess right off the bat, if you're not into spoilers, I would say just go watch it because it's a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And you're going to need to know it for Endgame. And
You really do.
That's pretty much it.
And you're going to need to...
Whether you like it or not, like you have to
watch it. And you're going to want to know what happened to Nick Fury's eye, and that's just like something that they gave you and stuff like that. Or if you're interested in finding
I think you don't want to know what happens to Nick
don't
Fury's eye, to be honest.
You really don't.
Yeah.
But anyway, spoilers. Last warning, spoilers. Unless you're into that stuff, then you can keep watching. I really don't care. All right, we're getting into it. So, what did you think?
It was okay.
Just okay?
It was okay.
Why?
I had quite a bit of problems with Brie Larson as Captain Marvel in her performance and in the direction that this director particularly took her. I'm not saying the Russo brothers can't make her into a more interesting character, but she was really annoying to me, and I didn't like her personality, how it was sometimes like sarcastic, and it just didn't really seem to work.
Dude, that's one thing that I even wrote that down because I felt like Brie Larson's a really good actress.
She is.
Amazing actress. I've seen her in something else.
I've seen her in Room with she's locked in this house, and she's not locked in the house. Someone abducts her, and the first half of the movie is her and her son, like, this is how their life is, and it's kind of like interesting in that aspect. But then in the second half, she gets out. She has to readjust back to like living a normal life because she was in there for years. She's like she's a good actress. It's not on Brie Larson. I think it's
I thought she was a really good actress, and even in Captain Marvel or Marvel rather, aka I feel like she did good at acting, but she overacted for the part of Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
with Carol Danvers.
You have to wonder why the cameras weren't stopped, and they were like, "Can you do that like differently?" And
it felt like the best parts of the movie for me were her chemistry with Samuel L. Jackson.
Definitely,
it just seemed genuine. It seemed like she was a real person.
Yeah, there were parts where her and Samuel L. Jackson are talking, and they like laugh, and it doesn't come off as forced or anything like that. And then when she gives her one-liners, which those are terrible. There are plenty in this movie. They're really bad and not funny. And that's another thing about the movie is it's like hit or miss humor, which I guess we can get into a little bit after you finish your thought about, Nick and her. Like,
oh yeah, I just felt like the strongest part of the movie is the chemistry that Nick Fury had with Carol Danvers, or just Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson on screen. Mm-hmm. It just felt like they actually were friends, and they were growing together, and they had character development the most when they were together.
Yes.
For the most part, one thing that lacked in the movie that I just felt like I couldn't get into the movie was the character development. I didn't have time to like anyone. Her best friend, you're like, oh, they're best friends. We know that because you tell me that, but I didn't, like, show me some clips, like, give us time on the screen.
It was a shitty idea to have this movie come out before Endgame. Rushed.
It was rushed. It was
rushed
super
is
rushed.
The word that comes to my head, because if you set this up years ago, kind of like what they did with Red Skull, when he comes back in Infinity War, even for that brief moment of like, oh, he's important because he's the key to the last Infinity Stone. Mm-hmm. Setting this up a month before
it was so rushed.
The last Avengers movie.
They had to do that. That pissed me off too, because I'm like, you had to not only give me the origin, you had to give me the origin, you had to do character development, you had to make us believe that she's powerful, you had to show us her powers developing, which is another thing. They just went right into it. Like, they were just like, oh, she has these powers, she trains, she doesn't know how to use these powers till like she knows how to use the powers. Yeah. That's not usually how Marvel does it.
And it doesn't feel like they've ever really been alluding to her that much in the previous movies. It really does feel like at the end of Infinity War,
they were just like, let's just add her because we need to have an explanation of what's going to come.
Yeah.
I just felt like they needed more time. They needed like another film.
Even Nick Fury just dropping some like subtle hints in the other movies, like talking about her, like, oh, well, we always have that backup plan or something like that. Or
it wasn't enough though.
It really wasn't.
Because the backup plan, it's fine for you to mention that, but it just seemed rushed overall. It just seemed like you didn't give the character time to just have the audience fall in love with her. I really just wanted more time. I wanted more time with her best friend and her. I wanted more time with. I I think Samuel L. Jackson is an outlier because we already know Nick Fury. We already met Nick Fury,
yeah,
so
of
we
course.
already
He's
like
been in
him.
a ton of films.
So that one's fine. I guess
yeah.
we kind of just are expected to like him. But her best friend, I didn't really buy. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, they like each
I
other.
honestly liked her more than Carol Danvers.
Do you really?
Yeah, she was more. I don't know, because she wasn't like snarky and annoying. Like one thing that annoyed me about Captain Marvel was, or Marvel. That's gonna bother me, but it's
Just call her Carol, because I think Kevin Feige said that's what the thing is.
It's like just how confident she was. Like she had like no flaws, like the whole movie, and she was just like came across as like, oh, I know everything. Especially that part with Nick Fury where he's like, well, how don't I know you're a Skrull?
Oh
and then she blasts the thing in the, and I'm just
that still bothers me when she's like, I was like, what director? Which one of the directors was it that was like, oh, you killed that line? Like that was
it's like
perfect.
Nick Fury doesn't know that either. Like
he's just like, oh yeah, you just shot something out of your fist.
you shot fire out of your fist.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay, you're not.
You just must not. Yeah.
Never mind. Oh, sorry, I questioned you.
And one thing that I did like, kind of going against the dislikes, but I did like showing of where she's from, the planet Hala or Hala, however you pronounce it.
Sure.
Where the Kree civilization is. They showed a little bit of it when she wakes up in the beginning of the movie and she opens up the window, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, they showed it from the outside, kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy type shot.
Yeah.
And it says Hala. And then they also did it when the ships were flying around. I think when she was going to the Supreme Intelligence, they showed a little more. And I think that I really enjoy those scenes. But if you don't really interact with the world, it's kind of, you're just in a room, like in the shots.
Yeah.
And then you just leave and you don't really get to see anything else. It kind of just defeats
Like, look at
the
all that
purpose.
cool shit
You're
outside.
like, oh my God, look at these buildings. And then they're like, all right, like, we're back to Earth. Like, whatever.
We're back to Earth. Here's a static shot of a hallway.
I just felt like the best parts for me were so quick. The fight scene when she was trapped with her hands.
That was the only memorable fight scene.
That was the only fight scene that I was like, oh. And then I had moments where they got me excited, but I understand that not everyone else is going to be excited. Like the Kevin Smith, Stan Lee in the train.
The little
that was
Easter
super
egg,
exciting for me. Super Easter egg. I was like, oh. And then another thing that got me excited was at the end, well, almost at the end, but it's basically the end, when she gets trapped, or she gets handcuffed or whatever on the floor by the Kree, when Jude Law, the actor, gets her, and she's into the Supreme Intelligence thing, and then she finally realizes how she needs to break out and like access her powers.
Yeah.
And she goes into that glowing form, which is called binary. That's what it's called. It's her binary form.
Yeah.
But this bothers me because they took a moment that should have been so great, and I didn't feel like the directors knew what to do with that. Because for just an example for people that like don't know what I mean. So binary is a form she takes where she basically uses all the energy to have these like crazy powers, right?
Yeah.
That's how at the end of the movie she's able to go like light speed.
And that's where she looks the coolest too.
That's when she
like
looks
where
the
her
coolest.
outfit shines. And
that's where she has like the powers, the like strength and all that stuff, and the whatever she shoots out of her hand. And it's cool, but you want more time to see it develop. I don't like when movies are just like, oh, she doesn't have a power, now she's just wicked powerful. Like I love, for an example, Thor. It took us a couple of movies for Thor. I think in Ragnarok was when he finally reached the level of power where he could do the stuff with the lightning the way he could. Like when his whole body lit up with lightning.
At the end of this movie, she's immortal.
It made no sense.
She's a god.
I'm like, she was just struggling like 15 minutes ago to fight someone, and now she's just a beast.
I've heard people compare her to the Superman of Marvel, and I think that's an overstatement.
Yeah, Superman's way better.
Superman's way more powerful, but I do understand in a sense that she is like overpowered. Like,
yeah, she's powerful, but Superman is definitely just.
Superman would murder her. Like,
oh yeah.
Like
every
maybe she's
power.
different in the comic. Like I have no idea.
No, she's not. She's not the super. She's I forget who I told you that was like the Superman of Marvel, but she's not like the Superman.
Oh yeah,
of
you
Marvel.
did tell me about that.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah, me
I know what
neither.
it looks like in my head.
I know the guy with the
name.
blonde hair and
and
he's ripped.
Yeah, and
I don't know
little
what his
S.
name. Yeah.
I can't think of it. It'll come back later.
Yeah.
But it bothered me because I do enjoy those moments when a superhero or a character is defeated or in a moment of defeat, and then they do the lines of like, whatever it may be, like they have a flashback. They could have used that. The whole movie was based on her memories. They could have easily used that chance to like have her see something, have her like see all the moments where she fell down, like get up, and then that's like her on the ground, and then she goes in the binary form and it lights up, and then she like does things. They didn't even do that. They literally just went from you're in your thoughts, you control your thoughts, you have your memories back, and now you're just powerful. It was so rushed. It was so rushed. They needed more time.
And what makes her feel like not that interesting of a character is her lack of like an arc, really. The guy's talking the whole time about how you have to control your emotions, but we never know. We never really see it. Like except the very beginning, like, oh, she gets angry.
But even then,
not even then, it's like a front. Like, oh, we want you to control your emotions because
for us.
you could murder us if you don't.
It had nothing.
So she
to
has
do
like
with
no
anything.
arc. Like that's what I was saying.
The character didn't have
Iron Man. Like he's got like arrogance. And
he's got arrogance, but they also add human nature to him, and they add a sense of guilt.
He's interesting, and he has an arc. Like he realizes when he's like in the first one when he's trapped with that doctor, and he makes his first suit. It's like he realizes just like it puts like things into perspective, and he at first he's like this really like
character growth.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
With the movie,
same thing with Captain America. Like he's a little naive, like he's
naive. He's super America, patriotic rather, and he's super the World Wars, like that era. Like it's all about like Uncle Sam and stuff.
First Thor, he's a know-it-all, and he's honestly kind of like a douche.
But Thor, that some people say they don't really like the first two. You understand it's like a Shakespearean type of movie.
Yeah. Like I don't even like Thor that much, but if something Thor has that this movie doesn't, it's like a clear arc for the character. Like,
she didn't really have any.
That's one problem I had with Ant-Man too, is in the first one at least, is Paul Rudd didn't do a good job of, this guy's supposed to be a criminal turned hero.
He looks like a dad.
He's like the most likable guy in the world.
He's
so charismatic and like
really
the nicest guy. Like
he's so similar to
I don't
everyone.
look at Paul Rudd and think like, this guy's like he's seen some he's great
I was like, this dude just looks like a normal dad.
Yeah,
it's
like literally a dad.
He does not look like a criminal at all.
And that's a problem with Carol Danvers, like in this movie. And
she's too perfect. Brie Larson.
I've also heard that the comic, she's kind of a boring character too. And some people were wondering, like, why did they even like adapt her this way? Like, they apparently they stuck to it a little bit in the sense that she's just not that interesting.
I just think that her story, you can take people that aren't that interesting
and make them
interesting because Guardians of the Galaxy. No one cared about Guardians of the Galaxy before
that
the movie came out.
Yeah, and
no one cared about the comics. No one cared about any of those people.
I remember that too. Everyone, they were naysayers
confused.
with the trailers, like, oh, this is like wicked out there and weird. It worked. They gave
so
every
confused,
character a personality, and they were all interesting. They were a great ensemble. Good movie. It works fine. Like you can take this character and make her interesting. They didn't do that really.
I think one thing that Brie Larson, like we said earlier, great actress, but it might not be her fault. That's why I'm excited for Endgame. I think the Russo brothers, we'll see.
Totally.
I think the Russo brothers are going to watch this film and see, okay, I want to do this. I want to do that. Because like Thor, you find out once you change Thor and you have, what's his name? Kiki? What the director?
Kiki,
whatever his name is from New Zealand. He took Thor and he made everyone love Thor. Like even people that were like, "Oh, I hated the first
Thor
two." Thor
3 is just like, here's the first two,
and then
he just
Thor.
excels it.
He just ruins.
And like all the humor, like in that movie, landed. Like he just knew what he was doing.
And that was the best version of Thor. Now,
easily,
they took that character and they put him into Infinity War, and you still are like, "Oh, that's the Thor from Ragnarok."
Same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. Like it's like James Gunn is writing them in Guardians of the Galaxy. Russo brothers brought them over to Infinity War. They still felt like the Guardians of the Galaxy. It didn't feel like they were under a different pen. Honestly.
It's just the directors. I think that we need to give her a chance. We need to see what the Russo brothers do with her because the Russo brothers can do no wrong. Yeah. Honestly, they really can't.
Yeah.
And once we see her, then we can decide, okay, was it her or was it the directors?
Yeah.
Because I know that they gave the directors this film, and they're very small directors. The only thing I heard about was an indie film they did. They only have a couple of films under their belts.
Yeah.
And it was one of them that's well known as an indie film. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just feel like with Marvel, such a big brand, such a big studio, I think that there's nothing wrong with being selective. There's nothing wrong with saying, no, we'd rather just go with someone we know can do it perfectly rather than someone that is new.
I feel like there were ghostwriters for this movie too, because her personality, I felt like she had like 3 different personalities.
That's one thing that I heard. I was watching a video earlier, and they were doing a review on it because I was honestly interested.
Yeah.
And he said that this movie felt like there was so many different tones. Like they
Yeah,
didn't know which
it
tone they
really
wanted to
did.
pick. It was
That-
like, are you here? Are you there? Are you here? There?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even get a chance as an audience member to fall into the tone that they
Mm-hmm.
want you to. And then next scene, oh, now you're happy. I'm like, you were just crying. Like,
I feel like Marvel movies generally like have that about them too, where like they are serious at points and funny. But I feel like in most movies they
do a better job.
They're good at like transitioning into like serious funny.
and carrying you with them. Like this one, do you remember the scene when she was talking, I believe, to Maria, her best friend,
Yeah.
in the kitchen, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
And they were like crying a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the next scene,
The
the scrolls came,
scroll
right?
yeah, he comes in.
Give me more time. How about do a sequence when now they're kind of like just doing something, like cooking or something, anything, and then the scrolls come. Like go from like sad. You have to know how to control the emotions. You have to go from here to there to here. You can't just go from
It's literally
crying
it was
to
so
now there's a scroll.
yeah, it was like they're both sobbing and like
And how are you supposed to act?
what really upsets me is you don't remember like who you are, and then it's just like a guy comes in like like goofy as hell. He's just sitting there like he like points at a cat and he's like, oh, that's
He's drinking
scary.
the soda. Everyone was laughing in the theater. I was like, why is that
Oh,
funny?
oh, especially the kid next to me.
Oh my god.
Fuck that kid next
I have the
to me.
worst luck in movie theaters. I
know.
swear, the worst luck. Every single time I go, there's always someone like near me.
Just had some guy laughing at literally every joke like it was the funniest thing he's ever heard. He also was one of those people that had to make comments like, how is that possible? Or, well, how, and like he thinks that, he, like, look at everyone, I'm the most smart here. I'm making like, all right, buddy, we're all thinking that. Can you shut the fuck up, please? We're watching
Like,
a
dude,
movie.
let us watch the movie. Like,
No,
we get it. We
like,
get it.
honestly.
And
I
even
hate
before the
people
movie
like that.
started, he was trying to open up a Coke, and he did the most annoying thing in
Oh,
the
I
world.
know.
It's the spin the top Coke. Instead of him just spinning it, opening it,
Ripping the
he
Band-Aid
just went
off.
slowly, and I'm like, oh my god, like open the Coke. I turned and looked at him.
Yeah, I remember because I looked at you like, I want to kill myself.
I wanted to go.
That was awful.
I couldn't do that. That was terrible. But back to the scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
The CGI for the scrolls, I don't know if it was CGI or if it was a mixture of costume design.
Yeah, it's
and
probably a
then-
little bit of both.
think-
Mostly CGI, probably.
because he looked like someone had like makeup on. Like,
Yeah.
like kind of like they developed the scroll with some kind of thing.
Yeah, it's
'Cause they
kind of
do
like
that.
Gamora's sister. What's her name? Nebula.
Oh, I was about to say cyborg.
She's
DC,
you can tell
Jesus.
that like because she's like there's like parts of CG on her, but
Oh yeah, for sure.
she's also
because
got like makeup.
it's like it's mostly her painted blue. I've seen the video of her like doing it's terrible. It takes hours. They make her blue
Mm-hmm.
and then they go in to make it look like kind of like the metal parts and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And they just really go into detail. But I loved Nick Fury CGI or Samuel L. Jackson.
That was the
rather.
greatest part of this movie, in my opinion. It was flawless.
It was so good.
You
I
don't
think
even notice
The
that
first time I saw him, I go, "Wow, that like," because I heard about it in like interviews and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, he's gonna be younger. I wonder how that's gonna look."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's an older movie from the '90s. And I saw him, and I was like, "Oh."
That was so well done.
First time I saw him, I was like, "Oh wow, that looks really good." But the whole movie, I wasn't thinking about that.
I forgot that he
about
was
it.
CGI. Yeah, honestly.
And Coulson had it too.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but it wasn't as much.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they did is just his hair a little bit, like touch up some things. But he looked really good too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the most part, the CGI I thought looked good. I mean, you
I
said
had problems with some of the CGI.
what was the thing that you
There
said?
was a part where she's in like this ether place. I think it's like
Oh, in the Supreme Intelligence.
they clearly recreate Brie Larson's entire person, like, but it's like a side view, and she kind of looks like she's made of clay. And there was also these ships appearing out of nowhere in the beginning, and they kind of just phase into reality, and it looked kind of weird. There was like a few things that I noticed.
When she was in that and she was up against the wall and the metal was going on around her, that reminded me of Thor. What was the Thor one? The second Thor, I believe. And was it the second Thor? Yeah, it had to have been the second Thor.
The second
Do you
Thor is
remember
the one
the
with, like,
ether
the-
or whatever? Like the red stuff that was going on?
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of, like that type of thing around her. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I kind of just took it at what it was because they wanted me to believe that this is not really there. This is in her mind. what I mean. So I kind of was like, whatever. But I loved the CGI. I loved the CGI with Samuel L. Jackson.
Definitely.
And I also loved the tribute, not a CGI at all, but just a tribute in the beginning of the movie to Stan Lee. I thought that was so smart of them to do. Like, let us
get it
take
out,
it in.
yeah.
Just get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. We already know he's most likely going to be in this movie.
The whole beginning, it's like, thanks, Stan Lee, and he's in the logo. And
yeah.
Well,
instead of doing all the characters in the comic books, he was in the logo, which I thought was so dope.
That was good.
And everyone started clapping. One guy was freaking out, though. I was like, all right, relax, buddy. Like, he just screamed. He just got up. He's like, yeah, Stan Lee. I was like, hell yeah. But
simmer down. Like,
dude, the movie didn't even start. Like, Jesus. He's cheering.
This guy's already going to be riled up the whole movie no matter what.
He's cheering. It's just a tribute to Stan Lee. I'm like, dude, relax. Like, show some respect, buddy. Come on. But I feel like I saw that before the movie came out, some of the reviews, they were saying that the cat stole the show.
Shut up.
No offense to those people, but the cat did not steal the show.
The cat sucked.
Goose was cool.
No, he sucked.
I thought Goose was cool.
I didn't even get why he helped them at the end.
At the end when he
did the Samuel L. Jackson's holding him, and then he randomly, the tentacles come out, because he's not a cat.
What? Yeah.
He's not a cat. He's a different life form.
Fleur.
It sounds like something from Rick and Morty.
It really sounded made up.
Like
Fleur.
And like the whole time it's disguised as a cat. And Samuel L. Jackson, like the joke is, oh, he has a soft spot for cats. He keeps like petting it. He's like, oh, that's nice. Mm-hmm. And
he could be a cat.
Yeah.
Just with.
But then like I guess
a new cat.
The cat. This has to be like a sentient creature, right? Like it
has to be able to
or not
think.
Sentient, that's the wrong word. It has to be like conscious. Like it has to distinguish good and bad, because it starts like killing all the bad guys with its tentacles, and it's really goofy. And honestly, you know what, maybe I'm just mad at this cat more so than I should be, because of the stupid eye.
Oh my god, that was such a stupid way to take its eye. I was pissed. I was like, the car accident would have been a great way. Oh, he turned the car to kill this scroll, and he lost his eye.
The cat scratches Nick Fury's eye. Not in its creature form, in its cat form. It scratches his eye, and that's how Nick Fury lost his eye. So if you were curious, since whenever Nick Fury was introduced...
That's another thing, that it was... You can tell, oh, that's rushed. They just don't know what to do to we
they
have to
were
do this.
Literally over-relying on, like, they're going to find this so funny. It was a cat the whole time.
It wasn't funny. How did the cat go from being his friend, literally killing people for him, to like, oh, I'm just going to scratch your eye? I was like... Dude, come on. They gotta find a better way to do that.
They can't like, that's just like this lingering question. Like, he's constantly got the eye patch on. And every time I looked at Nick Fury, I always thought, like, one day we're gonna find out, like, how he lost his eye. That's important. And they just do it. They waste that, like...
Wasted it.
On a stupid joke with a stupid cat that wasn't funny.
But people saying that they love that cat... Why do you love that cat? It's just some people that are so easily...
People are just cat people, I guess. I don't know.
There's nothing wrong with being a cat person, but I literally saw before the movie came out people saying the cat stole the show.
If it stole the show for you, there's something wrong with you.
I think Samuel L. Jackson, it was the best part of the show, of the movie, of the show.
It's honestly, it's weird because Carol Danvers was in one of the worst parts of Captain Marvel. It's so weird, isn't it?
It's kind of like Black Panther.
Yeah.
All over again.
It kind of is.
It's nothing against...
Except the difference with Black Panther is, like, the villain was the interesting one, and... you know what? She wasn't the worst. The villain in this movie was the worst. Captain Marvel's villain. What was his name?
Are you talking about...
The Kree.
Like the
Kree leader.
The person who took her in?
Yes.
Jan Rog.
He's very boring. He was a boring, like...
Just bland.
He's just bland.
And another thing, it goes back to just being rushed. I didn't have enough time to believe that there was, like, animosity or anything. It was just like, oh, no, like, you know he has some kind of background motivation and stuff like that. But you kind of just have to believe, like, oh, yeah, like, he's evil. You just have a sense of, like, he's evil. Like, whatever. There wasn't, like, a big build-up to fight. Like, oh, they just fought and now they escape and then they have to... meet up again and then fight again. It was literally just like they fought, escape. Okay, they fought.
Yeah.
Okay, like he's evil. And then she wins. And I was just like, dude, I don't even know who you want me to... Is this a cop movie with Samuel L. Jackson? Is this a superhero movie? Is this a movie about a character who has to develop like Iron Man, like a growth type of thing where they have to be a better person and then they decide, now that I'm the best me, I can be a hero to other people?
It's literally like the opposite. It's like someone was holding her back like the whole time. Like, oh, I can be my best self. Like I'm already this perfect person, but someone's holding me down. So she just wasn't that interesting, especially the villain. I just found him boring as hell.
Yeah, I just felt like again, it's not the villain's fault. It's not Jude Law's fault.
No.
He's the actor who plays. Yeah, it's not his fault. I really do think it's just the directors.
He was just written
Poorly.
I
I just think it's the directors, honestly.
There was nothing interesting about him. Like, he wasn't funny. And
He wasn't funny.
It wasn't even a satisfying conclusion to how his story ended. Like, he'll probably be back in the sequel. Hopefully not. For her sequel. I'd imagine she's getting
They
one.
need to do something else with the sequel. Find something else.
Yeah.
It can't be the whole... No, like, it has to be something else.
Because the whole movie, they're holding her back of her true power, and then she gets it. And the last act of the movie is her just beating the shit out of everyone. And it's like not interesting. It's not like there's not like cool.
And I didn't believe it.
It wasn't like well choreographed fighting. It was just like I literally didn't know what was happening, except I knew who Captain Marvel was because she was just shooting fire out of her hands. Everyone else, I'm like, I don't know who that is.
But I didn't believe it. I wanted her... I would have enjoyed the last fight sequence a lot more if she got a little beat up. I kind of like when the characters get a little beat up and then they have to fight back.
That didn't happen at all.
It didn't happen at all. She was winning the whole time.
It was
And
like a
then,
music video.
even when they captured her, she still looked gorgeous. I was like, Brie Larson, like...
That's what I was saying, man. She's
Look a little rough.
She's too perfect.
She really is too perfect.
The character in it, like in everything.
It's the
just
directors. I'm telling you, the Russos are gonna take that character and just make her amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Civil War, Black Panther. I loved Black Panther when he showed up. The music, the the mysterious music.
That was so weird. It's like Black Panther was more of an interesting character in Civil War compared to his own movie.
That's what I'm saying.
They were over
relying.
they were over relying on like, oh, you're just gonna like this character
because you already like this character.
Yeah.
Black Panther suffers from the same thing, or Carol Danvers suffers from the same thing Black Panther suffered from, in my opinion, with the whole you're a little too perfect. Like there's no. I know you have a whole naive type of thing.
But Black
going
Panther, in that movie's defense, like at least like there was conflict within him because like his father, right? Like he always had to back his father, but then he found out that his dad did that messed up thing, and that's why the villain's there. And then he's, he has that internal conflict in him. Like, am I even doing the right thing? With her, she's just like...
With her, the conflict was she knows she has these visions or memories and stuff, but even with the visions and the memories or whatever she thought they were until she realized their memories, it was so close to being something with the memory whole aspect.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the directors just couldn't just grab onto what they wanted. They were
I like the way they handled the memories. Like if that
in the
makes
beginning,
sense. Yeah.
How they were like, she doesn't know.
She was like the scrolls. They were sifting through her memories, and like I thought that was all interesting, and how some of them like weren't 100% accurate and stuff like that. But other than that, like. Yeah, that was her whole arc. It's like, you don't know how perfect you are.
It's so weird though, but I just really do wish they had either another direction where they went with this movie, or they just gave them more time. Like this was not a good idea for them to use her as the movie to come before Endgame. It wasn't a good idea.
Yeah,
because now you're kind of you're like oh, like that was cool.
Yeah.
Endgame, you're excited for Endgame, but at the same time, you're kind of like, so she's supposed to save us.
That didn't like take away from my excitement of Endgame, but this meant like nothing to me.
It really meant nothing.
Like it's like, okay, she exists.
But for
that's
me,
like what I got out of it.
For me, I kind of put it like this: I don't not want this movie to exist.
Yeah,
like I liked the movie; it was entertaining for the parts that I liked and enjoyed, and I liked the story. I wanted to hear about her. I wanted to see her in theaters and all that, and I wanted to see her on the screen. Mm-hmm. But I would have loved for them to try to do things like they did with other similar characters. You have Guardians, you have Thor that are from other worlds that come to Earth or are Earthlings, kind of like Peter Quill because he's from Earth. Yeah. You could have just copied and borrowed some ideas and stuff like that.
And I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. No, unless you're like a real like comic book nerd and you're like, oh, I need it to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Most of the time they change things anyways. They could have just changed some things around.
They changed the whole scrolls thing here, and honestly, that's one of the parts of the movie I kind of liked, because beforehand I thought the scrolls. I don't read the comics or anything, but you hear things. I heard beforehand the scrolls, they're bad, and the twist of, oh no, they're actually on the right. Like that's the good side. Mm-hmm. Like her people are the bad. That's like one of the few things of this movie that I was like, That's interesting. That was a good change. Like, and I honestly like that.
But even that was rushed.
It was.
Oh, by the way, she's on the wrong side of the thing. Like, oh, now she's over here. Oh, no, the
It
Kree
was
are the
literally,
bad
yeah,
ones.
yeah. It happened in literally one scene, and that
was so quick.
That was the part with the soda where he comes in like.
It wasn't even like a
stuff
thing.
To you?
It wasn't even like a scene where she had to like, you know, in movies when the people do investigations and they're looking through files and stuff, and then the music is like epic, and then they find a file and they're like, oh my god, I'm on the wrong side.
The way they handled it was like symbolic of how they wrote it. Like the guy came in not caring. It's like exactly how they wrote it. Like let's just like I don't know. Just
put anything.
Just
in there.
have him come in with a soda, nonchalant, and be like.
I was thinking earlier.
Yeah.
I would have loved. Well, I could just find the reviews and stuff like that, but I'd rather have like a conversation. I would have loved to hear thoughts from girls' perspective. Because oftentimes I find myself relating to people or characters in movies that relate to me. Like Captain America, not relate, but I have common interests, rather. Like Captain America, my dad's a very like patriotic type of person. Like my whole childhood growing up, he's always been like America. And like he's into like war movies and like all that stuff. Like Band of Brothers, World War II, World War I, all that. And I've always grown up in school, had an interest in stuff like that. But for this character, I couldn't find anything to like connect. Even the relationships were so quick.
That was kind of the main selling point, wasn't it? It was just that it was the first female lead in a Marvel movie.
But I wanted to hear from a female is, so did you like it? Did you go into it and say like, oh my god, like I want to be
I feel
Captain
like
Marvel?
they were gypped. Like it should have been Black Widow.
I think it should
Far
be
more
Black. But
interesting.
Black Widow is going to be something they do in the future
Yeah,
as like a
I heard
spin-off
that.
type of origin. That could be a rated R movie, honestly.
Yeah, because
That's what they
she
should
has a
go with
messed
it.
up past.
They should definitely do a rated R Black Widow.
Yeah.
But just back to the Captain America thing. The Captain America did perfectly with the war and patriotic, and I was just like, I bought into it. I was like, oh, dude, like I'm ready to like fight a war. Like sign me up. And then the same thing happened with Wonder Woman. It was the same thing. She fought in the war. And it felt like I was watching Captain America all over again.
Wonder Woman 2, I feel like that wasn't a main point for them. Like I feel like the marketing for Captain Marvel was really just like or maybe not. Maybe I was just reading too much into it, but it was like female feel like that. If Marvel like that's
I felt like
with what was her name again? Wonder Woman. I felt like they kind of didn't really like
do anything.
Yeah, it wasn't like a
it was
huge
more just like
point.
about a
It's
person.
like, oh, she's just a woman.
Like there's no big deal.
I feel like that was like a main selling point.
You know
and
what
if
I
you're
think?
into that, like great.
I think it had a lot to do with nowadays. I don't know if this is me reading into it as well, or if it's just actually how society is. I feel like nowadays people are thinking so much about like, oh, it's a woman, like women empowerment. We gotta like empower women. We gotta make sure we do the right thing. Even with Black Panther, that was a big deal. And the thing that I was waiting to tell you is yesterday when you were talking to me about I think you asked me like, oh, did you see the controversy or something, the reviews, how it's like split or divided?
Yeah.
I saw that today. There's all the reviews that I watched for
It's
Captain
1 or
Marvel,
10s.
not that even.
Really?
It's what I was gonna say is all the reviews that I saw, they were they couldn't say it, but in the videos, I'll show you later if you want.
Yeah.
In the videos, they were saying like, oh, like this is just my opinion, like by the way, like when you go into this movie, like I'm this and that, and I was like, why are they explaining so much? So I think there's some kind of backlash, like people like freaking out on people that don't like it or people that do like it.
I feel like this movie had a lot of hate like surrounding it before it even released. Like I think it has to do with Bree's comments, because I remember
That did not help at all.
I personally didn't find them like
The comments?
yeah, like I didn't.
Yeah, and she said she didn't want, if you didn't know, she said she didn't want the whole media to be filled with white men.
And see, like, personally, I don't really care about that, but I do have to say it's probably a dumb comment because this is a superhero comic book movie, and
That's
I think
majority
your primary demographic
is white men.
That's probably so. You already have people that are like kind of rooting against it. It seems like for some reason, and when people were leaving the theater, they're like, I heard
The comments.
I heard some shit talking. Like people were like,
Yeah, we split up when the movie ended because I had to leave and he stayed back and he got to hear some of the comments.
and it was like 4 families or groups. Like I don't know. It seemed like a couple of them were families. Some people were saying they wanted their money back. I didn't hear anything specific about why they didn't like it, but it seemed like maybe it was the points we were given earlier, like she was bland, she kind of sucked.
I heard a lot of that. I heard a lot of people, and this is comic book heads. Like, I have channels that I follow. One of them is Variant Comics, and he loves comics. He tells me everything I need to know because I'm like a weird breed where I like to find everything out without having to go through the comics. I just want to know these information, or the information rather. He loves it, and he honestly had this. He thought the same thing. He was like, I just thought it wasn't a bad movie, but I just thought it was bland and boring.
And I think that might be part of it. I feel like they really went for the woman empowerment thing, and because of that, they were afraid to like give her a flaw. Like, is that what happened?
It might be, but even when they try to give her a flaw, she's just so perfect on the screen. That's the director's fault, though. That when she just looks perfect, like let the characters seem like they have flaws.
I know, dude. What was the worst she looked in that movie? She had like blue blood on her nose.
Yeah, literally, like when she was on the ground, and then she wipes it off, and she's like on a red carpet, like.
And
gorgeous.
I guess that's something with heroes is they do always look perfect, but like think about when Captain America and Bucky were like kicking the crap out of Iron Man, like. He looked disheveled and bloody.
He looked terrible. Yeah. You actually thought, like, wait, is he going to die?
Yeah. Like,
I thought that. I was like, wait, are they going to kill him right here?
Yeah, right.
I was shook. I was like, oh, my God.
And even in the first movie, like their first movies, they get, like, knocked down. And they have actual human flaws that, like, we all see in ourselves. But not her, really. Her flaw was, oh, someone else is holding me back from being perfect. Oh, look at that. I let go of it. Now I'm this divine being.
Even that I didn't like. Oh, so me having why do her memories? Maybe the message the director was trying to say is without memories you can't have a personality. So since she doesn't have those memories, she only has the personality of this robot being that was created on Hala.
Imagine if that wasn't the point and she's just that boring. Like
it really was just bland. I liked it. I liked the movie. I would watch it again. I would rather watch this movie just for a little comparison. I'd rather watch this movie than watch Ant-Man 1. For me, Ant-Man 1, I was just kind of like...
I guess I just wouldn't want to watch either of them.
You still haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp. I heard it's slightly better.
Ant-Man and the Wasp was better.
I don't even hate Ant-Man the movie. It was just kind of... I don't know.
I think some comic book characters struggle from just...
He has the same problem as her, where I don't... Like, they're like, I don't buy it.
Well, not that. I meant, like, some comic book characters, they don't really have their own interesting stories. Like... Thor is a god, like a lightning god, the god of thunder.
Ant-Man can shrink.
Yeah.
And grow.
Carol Danvers.
That's it.
She's
invincible.
Cool. Her powers are cool, but her story isn't that cool. You're just like, oh, like Captain America, he's like a super soldier from like the craziest time that we actually on real life world have experienced. Like, oh, like the war and all that stuff. Iron Man, he's a rich playboy like figure, like has all this money, doesn't know what's right, what's wrong, and then he just becomes this person. But it's just like some of the director's choices, I'm just like, dude, like, come on.
I think just they needed to give her flaws.
They needed to give her flaws. They needed to give her flaws, and they needed to give her another movie.
Yeah.
There was not enough time. My overall problem with it to just put it all into one was the overall time. They needed more time to just develop characters.
I like what you said yesterday, where give a movie like a few years ago, have this be the sequel to Captain Marvel 2. Oh yeah, right before. Yeah,
I was saying I think the perfect way to do this movie could have worked. I think it could have fit in, meshed in perfectly. Like the first, it's rare that you get an Iron Man movie because the first movie is the best movie, or Guardians of the Galaxy. But what my idea was, we should have taken this movie, put it before we found the Tesseract.
Like in phase 1, like one of those
movies. Way back before we found the Tesseract. So then it could have been the cool thing, like, oh, this is when we found the Tesseract. So even if you didn't enjoy the movie, you thought it was bland, it fits into this bigger puzzle.
Yeah.
It's like a whole, oh, in that movie we saw this, and now it comes back in Avengers. So it like fits, it meshes perfectly.
And then the sequel, like, it could have been about whatever, and it could have, the ending literally could have been her beeper going off, like her messenger thing, and then that would have been cool. And then we'd been like, oh wow, she came back, like She hasn't had her own movie since Phase 1. It's been so many years.
Yeah, and we forget a little bit. Or even if she had the second movie that had the second movie could have had nothing to do with the first movie, because they can do that. It could have had nothing to do with even the bigger puzzle of Endgame and Infinity War, and it still would have fit. And then the third movie they could have done this weekend, or released now, which is the first one. The third one could have released now, and it would have been so much more excitement. It would have been a more like, oh, she's coming back. Like she was fighting. Could have been her fighting or something out in Galaxy or whatever. And then her thing goes off, and she looks down at the end, like in the end credit scene.
Yeah.
And then the after credit scene could have been her instead of the cat just throwing up the Tesseract.
Yeah, that was another problem. I mean, if this movie didn't have enough problems already, I know you didn't like both end credit scenes. The only one I had a problem with was the second one.
I liked the first one. It was dope that I got to see the characters I loved. I just thought what really was my beef, I think what started is when Nick Fury's typing in the Protector Initiative into the computer.
Yeah.
He erases it, and he sees Carol Danvers' jet. And on the jet, it says Avenger. Mm-hmm. And so based on every other Marvel movie I've seen, I was getting ready to get amped. The music, the Avenger music, starts getting louder and louder in volume. And then he starts thinking, and you can tell he's going to type in Avenger. He starts typing. It doesn't show you what he's typing, and then it just ends. That would have been... I am in the bag.
You didn't like that it literally didn't show the word Avenger? It didn't show
the word Avenger. I know that sounds so stupid, but I'm in the bag for these movies.
It's implied, though.
I know
he couldn't have written anything else.
I know that, but I like that in movies. I like when they show me like Avenger Initiative. I would have got up and I would have been like, "Let's go!" And then the second the credit scene started, I would have been gassed. I would have been ready, filled with energy. So I would have already been like Captain America. It started the thing. In the end scenes, it looked like an actual. How do I explain this? It looked like they literally made a video just to put in a movie. It didn't look like. It's so hard to explain. It didn't look
high production. Like
it didn't. Yeah, it didn't really look. It looked like a commercial or something.
Kind of did.
It didn't really feel like I was in the world.
I get what you're saying.
It was kind of like a quick commercial shot.
But pretty much, regardless of that one, we then both made the decision: do we stay for a second credit scene? I remember we both asked each other.
We both looked at each other, and then
we
were like,
"Oh, there's got to be something." We stayed, and so did everyone. Like
everyone thought, except for like.
And it was a stupid bit with this cat who at this point in time I want to strangle. Because he ruined Nick Fury's
eye.
And the joke was, oh, the cat puked up the Tesseract. Isn't that funny? And no one laughed.
That was the first time there's the Tesseract.
I think I literally heard crickets. Like that was the first time.
No one was excited.
No one laughed at the.
Why did the director even? The beef with the director just keeps going. But it really just goes back.
This is a movie. The more I talk about and think about, I think I'm gonna like less and less. Like right now, I'm like it's okay.
I'm giving her. I'm keeping it what I said. I think it's a 7.
A 7?
I think it's a 7 for me.
Mine's a 5.
Mine's a 6.5. It's like 6.5 and between 6.5 and 7. It changes depending on what you tell me. Like you could say something that would be like 7. But if you say something worse, I'll be like 6.5. But I think she needs time. I want to see what the Russo brothers do with her. Mm-hmm. And I want to see how Brie Larson grows into the character because... Like most people, you can't be Robert Downey Jr. Just go in there and you're just amazing.
Get a new director for the sequel.
Yes,
he's
you need
not
a new director.
Very good.
They.
It's
a girl and a guy.
A girl and a guy.
Yeah, I didn't. It's not that necessarily they're not good. It's just they can't. It wasn't working.
They're so bad.
It wasn't working
because they're just. I've never felt so bored.
Bored and like I'm over here now. Over here. Now
Even
over
with
here,
Thor, like I felt bored in some of them,
But Thor was still interesting because of the character.
They had like moments too. Like this movie had like 2 moments that where I was like, "That's interesting."
But yeah, I'd give it a 7. I would recommend it, and I still am gonna wait to see after Endgame. I can't wait to see how she is because if I watch Endgame and I love Carol Danvers, I'm gonna go back on that video and I'm gonna be like, I knew it. Like I knew it was just the directors. Like because Brie Larson could kill it in Endgame, and everyone could be like. Where was this in the first movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would be such a disappointment, though, to be those directors and be like reading the comments and everyone's like, this Carol Danvers is the best Carol Danvers.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Think so?
I think I am confident that the Carol Danvers we got on screen couple days ago when we watched this movie is not going to be anything like Carol Danvers in Endgame.
I agree with that.
I think it's going to be
not going to
completely
be
different.
Where's Fury?
Yeah.
I was like, dude, it's been 6 years that you've seen him. Or no,
it's been a long time, hasn't it?
They said 6. Oh no, 6 years was
This was the 90s.
No, 6 years was. I'm thinking of when she said, "How long have you been training and
Yes.
gone?" 6 years.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm talking about. It's been a while.
It's been like 20.
Even the end credits. I think that's why I didn't like that end credit scene, because of the way she was just like, "Where's Fury?
Where's Fury?"
I was like, "What is that? Like, what do you mean? Where's Fury? Like, that's all you got? Where's Fury? Half of the galaxy is gone."
She definitely knows, right? At that point, she definitely had to see like people.
Then why did she ask where Fury is?
Well, I'm saying she knows about the snap or something happened because she definitely saw people fade away. Or
That's what I was saying. I was like, was she in flight? How doesn't she know where Fury is? She couldn't assume like, oh, Fury's probably
maybe she wanted
gone.
to know. Yeah, that's what she meant. You know, I don't know.
But yeah, I'd give this movie a 7. I would recommend it.
5 for me, but I'd recommend it because it's part of an expansive universe, and you have to see it pretty much.
You really do have to see this movie just because it
that's
lines
what's
up and
annoying.
everything. And I would recommend it. I still want to see someone's opinion on a female's opinion perspective.
Yeah.
Because I just think that it'd be a lot different and they could connect better. And we're just guys. We don't really.
That was a selling point.
Yeah, I don't think I really was like,
Marvel
like a female thing. I was just kind of like, oh, cool. One cool thing about the movie, though, this poster. One of the best parts about the movie was the poster.
That's the best part right there.
We're going to be back in 2 weeks, and we're going to watch the movie Us by Jordan Peele.
I'm excited for it.
I'm super excited for that movie. I don't know what that movie's about. I really don't.
Just a big fan of Get Out. That was just a really good movie.
Do you think it's going to be a scary movie or more of like
it's marketed as a horror movie. I'm assuming it's going to be the same.
I think it's a mind movie.
It's going to be like the tonally like Get Out, where it's like it's mostly a horror movie, but maybe there'll be some humor in there. Because
I think it's going to be just like Get Out in terms of. I thought Get Out was more of a mind thing, more of like it messes your mind up, like you just have to think the whole time. Imagine if this happened.
Yeah.
Imagine when
I
was
love
like
that movie.
he was like. Rose, give me the keys, Rose.
Yeah.
And he's crying,
Yeah.
like literally, like, or when he's in the seat, going in the sunken place.
yeah,
Off topic, but yeah, we're going to see it. It comes out on March 21st, 22nd, but we're probably going to go on Thursday,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. And then we'll probably make that video and get it up as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Which hopefully will be the next day.
probably if not 2 days.
And then after that, I want to see Shazam.
Shazam.
That's going to be sick.
Yeah.
But all right, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Hope you enjoyed. Drop a like and subscribe if you are new to the channel and just found us. And yeah, thanks.